So we all face things in life that are a little unfair because we don't feel like we have to wait that long for something good, but sometimes we do. And in fact, the Bible has a lot to say about that very thing, so it's time for Bible Breakdown with Matt.
When I was in 6th grade, I started playing baseball, and I told my coach I wanted to play second base. But he started me in right field. I was super bummed, and I thought my coach was totally being unfair. Well, eventually, he moved me to left field, so I thought second base was gonna happen soon after that. But it didn't. And then the season ended. I was so frustrated. I spent that whole season in the outfield. I wanted to quit, but instead, I waited to see what would happen next season. Boy, am I glad I did, because next season, my coach assigned me second base. I was so excited. I had to wait a whole year, but I finally got the position I wanted. Well, in the Bible, David had to wait a long time to get something that he wanted. And even though I thought my baseball coach was being unfair, he really wasn't. But with David, there was one guy who was really unfair to him. King Saul. Now last week, Gavin told you about the amazing story about how David defeated the giant Goliath. Well, after David's victory, King Saul made David a top leader in Israel's military, and David never lost a battle. I mean, things were going really well for David, until King Saul started to get jealous of him. Saul knew that people loved David way more than him. Plus, Saul knew that God had already chosen David to be the next king after him. So Saul kept getting angrier and just more jealous until one day he even tried to kill David. David barely escaped. Luckily, he made lots of friends in the nation of Israel, so they helped him get away from Saul. But Saul was relentless and he chased after David for years. Finally, he and his army caught up to David, but they didn't know it. You see, David and his men, they're hiding out in these caves in this mountain. This is where the story, it gets a little funny and a little gross. So Saul, he really has to go to the bathroom. But like all of us, he wants his privacy. So he hikes up into one of the caves to, and he doesn't realize that David and his men, they're in the back of that cave. Well, one of David's men, he tells David, hey, this is your chance. Saul is a wicked king. Nobody likes him. You're supposed to be the next king anyway. So just sneak over there like a ninja assassin and take Saul out. Well, I'm sure David thought about it. Saul had been so cruel and unfair to David and really all of Israel. But David knew taking out Saul, it wasn't the right thing to do. It's not what God would want. Now, David did sneak over to Saul, but he didn't hurt him. He just cut off a little piece of Saul's robe. And after Saul was finished, he left the cave. Then later, when Saul was resting with his army at the bottom of the mountain, David walked out of the cave and he shouted down to him, "My king, look!" And Saul looked up and saw David holding the piece of his robe. David tells him, "Even though you're trying to harm me, I will not harm you back." Saul is shocked and he realizes David could have taken him out, but David didn't. Saul finally sees how wicked and unfair he's been to David. He even admits he's done wrong to him, and then he and his army, they go home. Wow. I thought life was unfair when I couldn't play second base, but I've never gone through what David had to go through. I mean, David gives us just an amazing example. He trusted God to keep his promise and make him king at the right time and in the right way. He wouldn't do evil against Saul, even though Saul was being super evil to him. And of course, after a long time, God does keep his promise and David becomes king of Israel. Wow. Okay, so I don't know what you think is unfair about your life right now. Maybe you want a certain position on your sports team, or maybe more screen time at home, or for a wicked king to stop chasing you. No, wait, that was just David. Thankfully, none of us have to deal with that insanity, but all of us will continue to face difficult situations. So do the right thing like David did. Don't make excuses about life being unfair. Yeah, Life is unfair sometimes, but that doesn't give you an excuse to do what's wrong. If you know what's right, you should do it. And I promise you, if you do the right thing, even when you're tired of waiting or feeling frustrated, life will be so much better for you. So be strong enough to do the right thing, because if you know what's right, you gotta do it.
Sorry guys, hope you learned a lot from Matt. That was a great story, and the Bible is amazing at some of that stuff. So whatever you're facing, remember, do the right thing. If you know what's right, do it. So we'll see you next time.